Hi there. Thank you for joining us today on our webinar, Nailing Your KPIs. And I'm Chapman, and I'm joined here with my work colleague, Marie Drever, my partner in crime. And we are senior business coaches for the hair, beauty, spa, and clinic space that you are in. And we work for a Melbourne-based company called the ZING project. And what we are talking to you about today is the boring stuff, the numbers, your reports, all of those digits on the back end of Katoomba that you know that you should know, but you don't. And when it comes to when we first start working with our clients, we find that there is a huge knowledge gap when it comes to knowing your numbers and knowing even where they should be. And there's two things that this comes down to: truth and training. So the figures tell you the truth around exactly what's happening in your business. And then we need to train you on what they mean and how to grow them, or how to minimize the figure, depending on what it is. So the only way you're really going to grow in your business is work out what is happening in your your business, and that is with your figures. The truth is always in your numbers.
Certainly is, Jay. With numbers and KPIs, why we believe we should share this information with you is after being in the industry for so many years, Jay and myself had learnt this quite a while ago. And once you nail it, exactly like all of these people in the room, I think there's about 22 people here, these are in our entrepreneurs group. These have got to another level in our ZING company, from being one-on-one coached to now being as entrepreneurs in the industry. Once you get to these numbers and learn every aspect of them, this is where you can be in your business. And I know for sure that being in the industry, in the beauty industry, learning these numbers, to me, it was boring, but I just nailed it. And once I did, it was so much fun.
Absolutely. And I might even go backwards. That's myself sitting down there on the floor with the white shirt. I think I'm the only bloke there, so I'm easy to spot. And then there's Marie in the bright yellow dress off to the left of the screen. So that's us, for those who haven't met us before. So what are KPIs? Key performance indicators. So the first thing that we want you to know is that it's not easy at first to know your numbers, and it tends to not be our strength in the industry. And the numbers that you absolutely must nail, at ZING, we only teach 9. There's only 9 numbers that will absolutely set you free in business. And they will help show you where you need to focus your energy. And once you have a trained eye, they will also show you exactly what is happening in your business. And it's so important for you and your team to know the figures that we're about to take you through.
Certainly is, Jay. So this document that you can see on screen is the ZING document that we get all of our clients to fill out. It's an absolute must every single week. It's so important to look at these numbers and all the different categories in it. We're going to go through each of these and explain why. At ZING, we wouldn't work with you if you weren't tracking these figures every single week without fail. So step 1 is about knowing your numbers and knowing what each of the categories mean, and what it means when they're up and what it means when they're down. We're going to go through that with you today. And step 2 is all about, what are you going to do about it? So let's start going through each category of the health check, starting with the total number of clients.
And it's interesting, isn't it, Marie, that when we start working with a client at ZING and we say, how many clients do you look after? They say, oh, there's a report on that. Hang on, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, they certainly do. They never know. And we were the same way back. And it's knowing these numbers just makes such a difference to your business, and to be able to read them out without even going to look for that report.
Because if you really know an area of business really well, or anything, you should be able to recall the information. Because someone might ask me a question about who's on the top 5 singers charts at the moment. I go, oh yeah, I think I know, and I could Google it and find out, but that doesn't mean that I actually know it. So you should be able to, when we quiz you, because we do, if you're a client listening, you know that we quiz you, we should be able to say, what was your average client spend last week? And you should be able to give us a very close ballpark figure. True?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Excellent. So let's start with this very first number here. This is the number of clients that you see per week in your business. So this example that we have up on screen, this is most likely a particular team member's health check. Because if your total business, including your team, are only looking after 16 clients a week, we might have a problem. So this particular person is looking after 16 clients just this week, just with this date range. And the reason why this number is so important, it's because it's just like counting beans. The more clients you look after, the healthier your business is generally. Okay. And we also want to let you know that this number is okay to brag about with your team and in the general public, with your friends and family as well. So if you were to go out for dinner with your friends and family and say, we turned over 15 grand last week, they'll be like, oh my goodness. It's not in the Australian culture to celebrate a number like that. However, you could say we looked after 150 heads of hair this week. How amazing is that? And they go, oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, at the start of the year, we're only doing 110. They go, fantastic. That's so great. So you can brag about the number of clients you look after. However, it's probably not appropriate in most circles to brag about the revenue or the profit margin. You do that with maybe your partner or your big business coach. So if you grow this number, your business will grow as well. The second figures here are all around retail units, and I can tell that you just closed your eyes tightly and you cringed, because you know that when you start to shine a light on this figure, it needs to be better, and that's very, very common. So there's 2 figures that we look at, and you've probably heard a lot of other coaches and mentors like ourselves quote figures. It needs to be 20%, it needs to be 30%, 15% of your clients need to be doing this, etc., etc. You need to know both values. You need to know how many units left your business, and also what was the dollar value. You need to know both. So the reason why you need to know both is that $247 doesn't tell us the complete picture. So $247 could be an eye cream and a cleanser. Or it could be 8 shampoos and conditioners. So we need to know exactly what's happening. And we've had clients of ours before say, my goodness, look at my retail this week, but they've sold 3 straightening irons, so they've had an unfair advantage. So you absolutely need to know both. And the main figure that I focus on with my clients is the number of units. So that tells me how well you are looking after your clients. So if you're looking after 100 clients, the bare minimum that I expect to see is 50 retail units leaving your business. Now, that's a ZING standard, and that's a minimum. Okay, so you might be thinking, my goodness, how on earth would I get it there? But we do. We absolutely do. In fact, I had some figures, when was it? What day is it? So yesterday sent to me from a client that's only worked with us. How long's...
around about 10 weeks, Jay.
10 weeks since the last program started. So she's been working with us for 10 weeks. And last week, her and her team sold more retail last week than what they did for the whole month of December, which is crazy, isn't it? For the whole month of December. That includes Christmas week. So when we think we can't, we can't. But when we think we can, we absolutely do. And it's all around how many people are you looking after their needs at home? So that's a really good indicator for us of how well you are servicing your clients, not just how much money you're making off your retail. Cool. I think, Marie, would you like to explain total sales?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's interesting when you don't look at the total sales, but you know sometimes that feeling of, I've got a bit more money in the bank this week. We don't want you to think like that. We want you to know what it costs to open the doors. And we want you to be focusing on, this is the scoreboard. So write down where you start and watch it grow. And your team should be hitting their targets. Their targets should be 3.5 times their wages, including all of the expenses. And that's something that I'm sure that we'll talk down the track in another webinar about, is targets. This should be a plan every week to work out what the growth is in this particular area, making sure that you track it and celebrate the wins. The new area of this document, so new and lost. You usually know if you've had a new client come in. So you know that feeling of, you do a better consultation, you look after the client that little bit better, and we shouldn't, but we often hear this happens. They all know the new clients that come in. It's exciting when you have new clients, isn't it? That feeling of they buy product and things like that happen. It's that excitement we have through a new client. We need to be putting these figures in. So as you can see here, we've had 2 new clients, but in the lost area, we've had 3 go missing. And Jay's going to talk further about that. But with the new clients, we need to make sure that how are you looking after them? So when they come in, is there something that you do with these new clients that might stand out? So do you give them a welcome pack? Do you ask the clients to come back in? And we'll talk about that with rebooking.
Absolutely. And I wanted to butt in twice while you were talking. It's always the way, isn't it? We had a client contact us this week, and it was the end of her financial year in New Zealand. And how much extra did she turn over last financial year compared to the one before? It was 159,000 extra. And I was just thinking, yeah, 159,000 extra. Does she have any extra team members from what she did the year before, the previous year, Marie?
No, she didn't. She actually had 15 hours less per week that she was paying in team members. So she had reduced down a part-timer, and her team had increased, so the dollars had increased by just over $3,000 a week. And that was all to do with focusing on the retail, which we've just discussed, and new clients entering the business. It's so, so important to have both of these.
So was a lot of that result from average client spend, or was it just growing the numbers, as in like new client numbers?
It was a bit of an overall of the report, but there was lots of retail and there was quite a few new clients as well.
So one thing that we explain when it comes to total sales is that's the scoreboard. That's the overall result of the game. And all of the other numbers are what make that high or low or stagnant. So we can't just focus on the total sales. We have to focus on the game, which is how many clients are you looking after, how many retail units, average client spend, how many you're rebooking, et cetera, et cetera. Cool. So that's why you can't just focus on the totals or just your retail or just your rebooking. You have to know all 9 of these numbers. So Marie just spoke about new clients. That's a no-brainer. We don't tend to need new clients explained to us a lot, do we, Marie?
No, we love new clients, but the lost clients is often an issue.
You know, and I've had 2 clients in the last couple of months, that have been actually so nervous to look at the clients that used to come to them and don't anymore, because they knew that step 2 was contacting them and finding out why and inviting them back. And one of my clients, the best way to describe her is she's a quiet little mouse, and she was just so nervous about finding out what made these clients leave her business. So to explain what a lost client is is the complete opposite to a new client. So new clients are coming in, lost clients are leaving out the back door, and we tend to not notice them. We celebrate the new, we don't tend to, well, you don't celebrate the lost. It doesn't make sense. So how we come up with this figure for hair, we generally say 16 weeks ago, go back in your appointment book 16 weeks ago and have a look at that 1 week snapshot. So we're recording this webinar on the 31st of March, on a Sunday, getting paid double time and a half, you'd hope, wouldn't you, Marie? Breaking all our rules, but that's okay. So we're recording this webinar on the 31st of March, and exactly 16 weeks ago is the first week in December. So in that first week in December, I want Katoomba to tell me how many clients came in that week but haven't been back since. So they haven't been back in all of December, well, they wouldn't be due. They haven't been back in January or February, and they haven't been back up in March either. Now, if they, what's that, sorry?
It's a very long time, isn't it?
It is a long time. So 16 weeks is the absolute maximum. We find that that's the sweet spot with our hair salons, but we can vary that, obviously. I generally say 8 weeks for beauty. Is that what do you find that that's the best time frame for your beauty clients, Marie?
Yes, I do. 8 to 12 would be the maximum, and some lash salons that just mainly do lashes, some of them are doing even 4 weeks because their clients come back every 2. So by 4, they think, well, their lashes have come off. So I think you've got to vary this depending on the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the fact is, if you haven't seen a client for a beauty treatment for 12 or 16 weeks, they're very, very due, or they've been somewhere else and have been looked after by another beauty therapist or a hairdresser. So to run a report on Katoomba to find out this figure, and I thought I'd go into a little more detail with this figure because it's so incredibly important and something I'm very passionate about, is you need to go to the customer retention report on Katoomba. Now, you access that from the main computer. You don't access that via K1. And what you would be doing is, if you were doing it right now today, and it's the 31st of March, you would be putting the date range in for 1 week, which would be, say, the 1st of December to the 7th of December. And what Katoomba will then do is it'll spit out a report and say, okay, Jay, okay, Marie, this is the list of people that came in that 1 week and they have not been back since. Okay, so that's a 16-week report. Now, the great thing that Katoomba reports do, which I really, really love, and it makes my job and my client's job so much easier, is it doesn't just give you a number like that's 6 clients that haven't been back, or that's a 10% retention ratio. It tells you all those numbers and graphs them, and that's great. It actually tells me what their name is, what date they came in, who touched them last, and what service they had done. It also tells you how many visits they've been in. So if they've been in for 36 visits, that's about 4 or 5 years worth of appointments. Or it'll tell you whether they've been in for 1 visit, which usually means that that visit, the first week in December, was their first and last visit to you. Okay. So this is when we really start to shine a light on any weak spots in your business. So you might start to see patterns. And one of the patterns is every time I give a client to Marie, they show up on the customer retention report in 16 weeks' time. So we know that Marie probably needs some more training. Or like a client of mine found out recently, when she gave a lash client to one of her therapists, particular therapist, there was a much greater probability that that client would become lost. She just needed more training. It was as simple as that. So as we said, the lost clients can vary, but if your hair, 16 weeks, and if your beauty, start with even in the middle at 10 weeks. And the reason why we put these figures together, new and lost, is because one's traffic coming in and one is traffic going out. So look at the screen now, and you can see there's one column of data. And the next column would be next week, and then the week after, and then the week after that. And what you will find is that when you have 3 of these reports printed, covered in scribble out in front of you, that's 3 months worth of data. That's so valuable. So if you're working with your team and looking at these numbers and setting them goals every single week, you will see change just over those 3 sheets of paper. That's 3 months. How exciting is that? So it's not just about having the amazing Katoomba reports at your fingertips. It's about printing those reports, taking the data and putting them into a health check or a spreadsheet and actually writing it down so you can commit that data to memory. So there's no good just filing it away in a book or in a little plastic pocket folder. You have to look at it every single week, and that's where the change will come. Okay. That was a rant and a half. Marie, average client spend.
All right, so the average client spend, this shows up so much. The reality is the more the client spends in your salon, the higher the profitability is. The loyal clients, you know when they're coming in because they tend to spend more. And in fact, sometimes you've got to work smarter, not harder in this area. So if we were to take an example of an average client, sometimes we don't understand this. So if you're thinking maybe an eyebrow wax is $25 and a leg wax, maybe that, let's just round it off at 50, and a facial is 100 and another client spends 25. This equates to $200. If we divide it over the amount of clients, it breaks it down into a lower average client spend. This is where we need to look at how we're looking after the client when the client's in, and asking what are their concerns with their skin or their hair since their last visit. This all interlinks to increase that average spend when they're in, and they're not just having a brow wax and they're not just having the foils that they came in for. It's about looking after the client and increasing that average client bill with every client every time.
I find that the quickest and easiest and most cost-effective way to grow your bottom line and profitability is to grow your average client spend before you grow the amount of new clients coming in the door. It's actually quicker and easier. So if you were to do some quick figures now of writing down how many clients did you look after last week, and how much more money would you make if every single one of those clients just spent $5 more? How much would that be?
Makes such a difference, doesn't it?
Huge difference, massive difference, absolutely.
So along with the rebooking, think about all your clients that you saw. And if we were looking at this particular spreadsheet here, 16 clients, how many of those have you wowed enough to return? Looking at this, it's only 34%. So it's not even half of the clients. So if you think of, sometimes we get confused with percentage. So if you think even at number 16 clients that come in, half of them would be 8. We haven't even rebooked 8 of those clients. So
good maths there, Marie. Well done. Did you use your iPhone?
No, I didn't. I know my numbers.
Oh, good.
So think about how we can wow the clients and make a difference to every appointment that they have with us. It's your insurance policy that when you look at your appointment book in 6 weeks or 8 weeks when they return, that you have a full appointment book. You know those days where you think, gee, it's not very busy today. If you look back at your rebooking percentage on your Katoomba reports, you'll notice that it's very low, and that's why. So the best number that this can be at, so you can see how you're tracking as a business and individually for each team member, you should be at 85%. Anything below that, we need work. So think about how you can change that number. And it's not just about asking the client at the front desk, would you like to rebook? It's about changing and finding out what their concerns are, what's the plan with their hair or their skin, or are they going to a wedding? Your ears should prick up and think, well, do they need a tan? So there's so many areas of your business that you can offer to your client as additional services to get them back in the door, not just for their regular service.
And I always think, Marie, that what's the chance that those 16 clients are going to have their skin looked after or their hair looked after again in the future. It's 100% unless they pass away or move countries or towns. So
Yeah,
if they're going to have the service done again, book them in.
yeah,
Book them
that's
in, make the next appointment, make their life easier.
Oh, exactly. And I think the other thing too is clients can often go astray because they forget to rebook. I know I've done it since not owning a salon. If you don't rebook when you leave and then you think today, gee, I'd love a facial or I'd love to go and get my hair done. If I haven't booked it because we never discussed it on the day, I think I'll go astray because I'll find someone else to do it. So it's often happens. It's not that they don't enjoy coming to you. They couldn't get in that day because you hadn't rebooked them.
Absolutely. So I think the no-brainer is if you work a late night or maybe two, or if you work a Saturday, or if you work a Friday, Fridays are usually busy days, you need to let your clients know that. If they like to come in on a late night, in an evening or on a Saturday, and you haven't told them that that's your busiest time and they can't get in, guess what? That's your fault because you haven't educated your client.
So true. So this next part's one of the parts I love the most. So the number of treatments. So think of this as any type of business. So whether you have an injectable clinic, whether you have a hair salon, or maybe it's a beauty salon, even just nails, it doesn't matter what type of salon that you have, there's always additional services that can be done in a business. So if we were thinking of add-ons that clients could have done, if it's hair, it could be treatments and Olaplex. So if there was 16 clients coming into this business, 6 treatments have been done. If it was, for instance, a skin clinic, what about micros or anything that you could add on? Might be in hair, a blow wave card. So there's so many particular areas that we could even just focus on with a business for just an entire month and talk to every client about, did you know that we do whatever it might be? And that is where, as Jay mentioned, the average dollar sale will increase because the clients are spending more in your business.
Absolutely. So this example, Marie, so 6 treatments for 16 clients, that generally speaking, a treatment would be anywhere from $20 to $30.
Oh,
Maybe
minimum.
higher if it's Olaplex. So that means that 6 out of these 16 clients are spending $30 extra. Imagine what that's going to do to your average client spend. Do some quick sums on that. It's incredible.
Sure is.
Excellent. So what we're going to talk about now is accountability. And it's a two-way street, which I'll explain in just a moment. So firstly, why don't we want to focus on the numbers to start with? When we have a clear day, we've got our Tuesday morning free and we're working on the business, why don't we instantly go, let's print some reports and look at the numbers. Let's look at our KPIs and critical drivers. It's because we don't like doing the boring things in business. And it's typically in the hair and beauty space, the bright and shiny objects get in the way. So we go, oh, wow, let's work on social media, or let's put some filters on my photos and post those out there. So we get attracted by the fun things or the actions that bring new clients into our business. Okay, so we tend to not want to gravitate towards knowing our numbers. So again, if you don't do your numbers and if you don't know your numbers, we can't work with you. You can't grow your business without knowing your numbers. It's like going through business blindfolded. Isn't that right, Marie?
It certainly is, Joe.
Oh, she loves that one, blindfolded.
Oh.
So not knowing your numbers means that if your business was to grow, how would you know? Because it felt busier? Because the figure at the end of the week that went through the FPOS machine was higher? But for you to replicate that again and not know how it happened, was it just because you looked after more clients? Was it because you recommended to stack more retail? You just don't know. So whether your business is growing, slowing, or stagnating, you need to know your numbers because they tell you how that happened. So it's also about both you and your team knowing the numbers. Okay, so those 9 figures that Marie and I just shared with you, it's no good you knowing them and not your team. Your team need to know these figures as well. Okay, so the health check document that we showed on the previous slide, we send that to our clients when we first start working with them, with also some action items around setting up a folder for each individual team member, printing out some example reports and showing each team member where those figures are in the reports. And Katoomba makes our life easy. It's only on 2 reports, not 20. And each team member every single week needs to fill those figures out ready for their one-on-one and ready for their team meeting, so that you can go over those numbers. It's a part of your job. And I've had some clients say to me, and I'm sure Marie has too, when can I stop filling out these figures? When do I know that we can stop looking at them? I go, you don't. As long as you are a hairdresser or a beauty therapist working in a salon that's being coached by ZING, you look at these numbers every single week. It might only be 5 minutes, but every single week until you sell or close down this business. That's how serious we are about knowing your numbers. So why don't you already know these numbers? And I hope that we've built enough of a need and value around knowing them. It's because no one ever taught you. Knowing your numbers doesn't come naturally. We don't know what we don't know. This is a skill that you need to learn, and you need someone to teach you how to look at your numbers, how to decipher them, and then also how do you grow them. And I can guarantee that you will learn to love your reports and love your numbers. And I love when I work with a client and they just start spitting reports out left, right, and center and really start to celebrate their numbers. I've got a client that I work with in Perth, and she has been having some great wins lately. And she sent me a Voxer message, it was last week or the week before, and it said, oh my God, I just had a team meeting and one of the team members cried. She was so happy. And this one did this amount of retail and this one did this rebooking, and the average client spend was this. And this client, and I said to her in my return Voxer, I remember a few months ago when I first started working with you, you didn't even know how much your business turned over per week. You gave me a ballpark figure that was out a couple of thousand. So you will learn to love your numbers, especially when your figures are going in the right direction.
So true, isn't it? Like every week, you need to be looking at your figures and sharing them with the team. So what's gone up and what's gone down. So even if you have a sign or something in the back tea room that says this is where all the areas of the business from the health check started and this is where they're growing, the team actually get behind that as along with you, because giving them complete transparency and clarity is the very first step that you need to make. So you think about it, if you were going to run a marathon, you can't just do it. You've got to do step by step to make sure that that happens. The best learnings comes from you doing it. So you can't just start it now and then stop. And like Jay mentioned, you've got to keep going. You can't just stop. You wouldn't say to a client or to a team member, well, we're going to stop doing the blow wave after the foils. We're a bit bored with that now. You just keep going. So it's the same with your numbers. All these numbers that you learn, you have to keep going. Change can and most likely will be uncomfortable, but you need to push through. So everything that we do in a week, sometimes we struggle with it. Doesn't matter what it is, but we push through and we get through and we go, yay, it's Saturday and we finish the week. There's a mention there of 168 hours in a week. And if you think about it, most of us sleep 7 or 8 hours. It's about 56 hours that we sleep in a week, and we work for 40 hours. So it leaves just under 100 hours a week. If you think you haven't got time to do this, you truly have. And to put the time aside and form a system to do this at the same time every week will give you a really good pattern to move you forward and know all these numbers inside out. You will be so grateful that you do it.
So today, right after this webinar has finished, if you're still listening by now and you haven't fallen asleep, I want you to take action. We want you to take action. So the 2 things that I want you to do is I want you to log on to your K1 Katoomba Online, and I want you to go into the report section, click on business summary, and you'll see there's that the business summary on K1 is customizable. Now go back at the start of this webinar, and we want you to have a look at the ZING health check and make sure that every single one of those figures, every single one of those values is turned on so that you can start to look at these figures every single week. Now, the only figure that won't be shown on the business summary report is your customer retention, your lost clients. Now, you can't access that data from K1. Maybe it'll be updated in the future. Maybe you can in the future if you're watching this in 2025. But you will need to go to your main computer console with Katoomba and print the customer retention report, and that will tell you how many lost clients. And remember, the date range that you need to use for that isn't last week or last month. It's from 16 weeks ago for a 1 week snapshot, or 10 weeks ago for a 1 week snapshot. Now, in my opinion, they're the two most valuable reports that Katoomba has on offer. That will give you a complete snapshot of the health of your business now. And of course, there's thousands of other reports on Katoomba as well, but those are the ones that a business coach absolutely must and will want to see from your business. Okay.
Fantastic. So boring is profitable, and it is, but really once you get clear clarity on where you want to be and also where you've started, where you could potentially grow to, and knowing these numbers on the health check will make such a difference to your business. You don't want to run your business blindfolded like Jay mentioned. And yeah, the fun stuff, the social media and looking up stories and marketing your business, yes, you need to do it, but you need to know these KPIs before you do anything else.
Absolutely. So hopefully that was helpful for today, and you've got a page full of notes. And the main thing is that you take action. Go back, look at your reports and nail your numbers, because the truth of exactly what's happening in your business is hidden just a few reports away. So if you need some clarity around this, by all means, reach out to myself or Marie, and we're happy to share more. Have a great day, guys, wherever you are. And we look forward to presenting our next webinar very soon.
Thanks for listening.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.